I always say she was the best player in our house, and you just suggested she might be the best coach in our house. I know I'm on the bottom of the totem pole.
Shut up and sit down.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Cobblestone Creek, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Mill Home Supper Club, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Roll Tech, and by Miller Lite.
What's up, Wisconsin? From the Inside Wisconsin studios, happy March Madness. Like, the whole month of March is pretty cool. My name is Trevor Thomas. That's John Anderson in a sweatshirt that I love that we feature your sweatshirts at the beginning of every single episode of Inside Wisconsin. That sweatshirt is something every Badger fan has probably owned at some point in their life. That's classic.
Yeah,
what's up, Jay?
Honestly, the reason why I'm doing this whole endeavor Inside Wisconsin is so I can just show everything that I have in my drawers in my closet. But just in case anybody's like, I wonder what this program's about.
Yeah, what's that?
Oh, it must be Wisconsin, in case the helmet doesn't, or the Packers behind me, or the Inside Wisconsin bug. But this, it is. I'm with you. It's a classic. I love it. It got Bucky on there. And
that
so,
makes me think
I'm ready for
92. That makes me think Rose Bowl in the 90s. That's what I think of when I see that W, of course. But it's not about football today. It is about basketball. Our guest on Inside Wisconsin, Coach Dick Bennett. J.A., when you hear the name Dick Bennett, what comes to mind?
Like, here's a guy that has universal Wisconsin appeal.
True.
I don't know that there's not a border where he wasn't within some radius of people that he was going to touch, right? You think of what he did for Wisconsin, and I think very much the Badger basketball team is still on a run that he started on a foundation that he built. But you think of what he did at GB, Wisconsin Green Bay. You think of what he did at UW-Stevens Point, which is where I first kind of learned who Coach Bennett was a long, long time ago. His many high school jobs, like, he's about as Wisconsin as it comes. Right. He spent a little time in Washington State. I don't even know if I need to cover that. Right. No. He's a Wisconsin guy. And I think of it not just from our signature university there in Madison, but he kind of touches all areas of the game and all areas of the state.
Yeah, he does. From high school through college, over 40 years coaching, and almost all of them are here in the state of Wisconsin. You will love this combo, guys. A chat with Coach Dick Bennett today on Inside Wisconsin.
Shut up and sit down.
Here he is, Coach Dick Bennett. It's an honor, Coach. Thank you for being here with us on Inside Wisconsin.
It's my pleasure, believe me.
My goodness, I'm here wearing my Badger sweatshirt, but you've got a lot going on in this state. Between Badgers, GB, Stevens Point, the numerous high schools, like you encapsulate a lot of Wisconsin sports history with you, including the Southwest shirt you're wearing right now.
Yeah, look at that.
Show the people, we're the mighty.
Yeah, buddy.
Brave men are we. We'll never meet defeat. Sons of victory. The whole thing. I don't know if I can sing it all, but Coach, it's tremendous to have you. And I just want to know, first off, have you gotten any rest in retirement? Because you got kids out there coaching, and I feel like that could be way more stressful than anything you have to go through.
Well, that is. I have not been able to enjoy, for example, my son's games the way others have. It's difficult for me to watch them, but I'm very happy with I'm happy when my kids are happy, and Tony's very happy in what he's doing, as was our daughter who coached, and our daughter who is still at Southwest teaching, watching her kids. So that makes grandparents very happy and parents.
Well, you made Wisconsin very happy, Coach, for a lot of years. There's a lot of kids that probably think back to their days with Coach Bennett, whether in high school or in college here at Wisconsin, Green Bay, Stevens Point. Do you have anything that sticks out to you specifically about our state? Because we know you're retired here with us now, too.
Yeah. I call Wisconsin my home. I grew up a trucker. John might know what that was. That's a Clintonville guy. After moving from Pittsburgh, PA, when I was 11, to Clintonville, Wisconsin, about 25 miles from Green Bay. And it didn't take me long to realize I've been more comfortable in blue collar situations only because my father came out of the steel yards in Pittsburgh, and I was able to relate to much of what was going on around me in school with classmates. And I grew to love the state and decided we would never move, even though I spent a few years out at Washington State, primarily to, get Tony a good chance, as he was my assistant and would eventually take over. But quickly we came back. Just love the state. Not crazy about the winters, but it is a basketball season. And I spent most of my years inside in the gym, so I was able to tolerate that. It's just, I'm a Badger, and I'll never be anything else.
First off, Trevor, the two greatest athletes that I know of in Stevens Point were before 1983, so you've never heard of them.
I heard of one for sure.
There's a great guy that played at GB on a couple of their really good D2 teams, which was Joe Mall.
Joe was from Clintonville, right?
And then I still think the greatest quarterback and baseball player that was ever there and was in the Royal system forever was a kid named Mike Jerschley. Mike's
absolutely
probably something now.
Mike's father was very dear to our family, Don.
Is he?
And Mike's three brothers who, were afflicted and have passed away were always Doug, the oldest, was second oldest, was a manager for any camps that I ran, a statistician. And we remained close to the Jerschley family. And Mike is back there, and I've said Don, his father, was the greatest athlete in Clintonville history, and Mike is the second. And there's been some debate on that, but incredible athletes.
Yeah, Mike could have been a quarterback anywhere he wanted to be, and he got drafted, I don't know, 4th or 5th round. I remember it was at the Rangers, but back then that didn't happen very often. So as a kid, and you read the paper and you read the exploits of these people, and you just assumed when you finally saw them, they were going to be 6'11" and 300-pound heroes, and then you see them and you're like, wow, they're average size people, but they were fantastic. So I have my eye, I got a foot there in Clintonville when it comes to those things.
Yes.
I chose my profession. I'm wondering if you chose yours or if basketball chose you.
I did. I had wonderful coaches in high school. Carl Brugink was my last, but a man named Jerry Grunska was before him. Ironically, I was a better football and baseball player than basketball. And so I did play 4 years of small college football and baseball and basketball. I played all three of them. And I was a good football player and a good baseball player and a very mediocre basketball player. But I loved it because early on I realized it's the only sport I participated in where the whole could always be greater than the sum of the parts. And basketball required everybody to do everything. And the synergy that is required makes the difference. And so you could have 5 10s on the floor and amount to a 25 as a total. And you could have 5 5s on the floor, which is not recommended in recruiting, but you could end up with a 40 because of that synergy and the way you help one another, whether it be screens, helping on defense, making an extra pass, winning the X battle, the hustle factor. And I saw that early, and it influenced me so much that I decided that's what I want to do. And so I did it for 11 years, loved high school. Probably I was a better high school coach than I was college coach. I was not a great recruiter. I tended to recruit guys who were more like me, couldn't shoot the basketball. And my teams reflected that. We were not offensive juggernauts, that's for sure. But I did raise a very great shooter, help raise one, I should say, in Tony, who was probably the best shooter I've ever coached.
You mentioned earlier in that response, Coach, that you played 3 sports all 4 years at college, and assuming you did the same in high school. John and I were talking off air that just doesn't happen anymore, and it's a travesty. No. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it doesn't. Kids need to develop their their abilities. If you play basketball, it's one of the reasons I couldn't shoot. I broke my arm playing football, and I just had a lot of injuries. I'm still paying for those. And so it was the thing to do then. I loved it. And it was a small college. It was Ripon College, but we were very good. Those were called golden years at Ripon because we won the title every year in everything. And I played with some marvelous basketball players who I thought were Division I players then, and I know they would have been now. And I played with a wonderful quarterback who was drafted by the St. Louis Football Cardinals. And I played every play offensively. And I remember one game every year I played both ways because St. Olaf had a very fast receiver and I covered him man to man. And so my speed was a factor, not my size, but I wouldn't trade those days for anything, but you cannot do it anymore. And I would not encourage guys to even try it.
See, and I think that so much of that is if you play all those just to develop all kinds of how you can be well-rounded. And I was at the SEC Outdoor Track Field Championships a few years ago in Alabama, and Nick Saban came by to watch one of his guys. And I said, "Oh, coach, I said, answer me this. If you want guys to be fast, every coach wants faster.
Mm.
Why instead of spring ball and give them to your strength and conditioning guy, send them out to the track team and let them run?" And he's like, "Well, because I don't know if you've ever watched these guys run, but they all run in a straight line." He goes, "And I need the guys whose hips are good and you can turn." And he goes, "I'd rather have them play baseball where they have to learn to track down, or I'd rather have them play basketball where they got to get side to side." And so I always think that if you just let your kid play all these things, whether you're seeing it or not, there's development that can help in whatever you finally decide to specialize in.
Yeah.
But if you do it too soon, that you kind of hurt that. So so you've coached all these games in high school. You've got 11 years going on there. How do we land at Stevens Point? Because I did read where it said you've never applied for a job.
That is true.
In basketball, which seems...
I did fly. My first years out, I applied for jobs and didn't get any. And a guy named Lloyd Nell from Marion, Wisconsin, a little town outside of Clintonville, rescued me. And from then on, I did not. I was always content to stay where I was. There's a biblical verse about, grow where you're planted. And I believed that. And so there's somebody that continued to come into my life and say, "Hey, look, we know you like to rebuild. We know you like to start from scratch, develop players, develop a system and a program. How about doing that at Stevens Point?" And the man, Bob Kruger, was the guy there. And then Don Harden was the guy at Green Bay. And then there were a couple of people regarding Madison. Madison was something I wanted to try. I believed always that Wisconsin could be rebuilt. And I thought it could be rebuilt with people from the Midwest. We did not have to recruit the same guys at Michigan or even Indiana. And I felt like in watching, they had followed a pattern of recruiting the same kinds of players. But I liked the tough Wisconsin guys. And Al McGuire at that time actually was a mentor. I took a class from him and I spoke to him on several occasions, and he left a legacy that is rarely recognized. Al McGuire taught tempo control. He taught putting players in role playing that really has impacted me, because the ability to control tempo was what gave us a chance to succeed against the high flyers. And I might ask, Tony does the same thing, although he gets criticized a lot more for it, because today's player isn't crazy about, extending a shot clock, although he does it as much with their defense as with their offense. But at any rate, Al McGuire did that, and that was the key to his success. And I felt like Wisconsin could do that. And I only wanted to stay 5 years, and that's what I did. But I thought we could get it going in 5 years, and then others would pick it up, and they did. Bo Ryan, of course, most notably, and I'm so happy Greg Gard is enjoying the success he had. Once he gets past this fiasco, people will again latch on to what they're doing at Wisconsin. But there was always someone who said we need a program rebuilt. And the first question I asked is, can I do it my way? Because if you want me to uphold some kind of tradition in how we play the game, I'm not the guy. I'm really not the one you want. And he said, no, we're that bad. We'll take anything we can get. So I always chose programs that were really down and I could do it my own way.
And you did. And you put a lot of those programs, if not all of them, back on the map. I mean, Stevens Point, Green Bay had its success and came into fruition when you were there. And, of course, Wisconsin to the Final Four. Is there a favorite team over the years, Coach, whether it was high school or in your college years, that is the team that you remember most?
Gosh, that'd be hard. I could pick one that achieves specialness, but I have to be honest with you. And I think any father will understand it. When you get the opportunity to share the ups and downs with your son, that will probably rank the one that you'll go toes up with. And I would have to say that Tony stayed to play with me. I think he was capable of playing perhaps above that level. But when he came, others came with him and enabled the Green Bay program to really take off. And so those, I guess I would have to say my favorite, it had as much pain as joy, was coaching teams where my son played, because I suffered as a father when it didn't go well or when he received criticism. And as John will tell you, Green Bay is a wonderful town, but it's a professional town. And if things don't go well, you hear about it. Mm-hmm. And those early years were a test of endurance. And thankfully, perseverance and endurance go together. But endurance is just staying with it and lasting. Perseverance is making changes as you go. And I was able to learn perseverance at Green Bay because we were really bad early. And I've even encouraged the staff there now to persevere, because it's very difficult starting over.
Yeah. You said you weren't a great recruiter, or you didn't care for that. How hard was the Tony recruitment? Like, were there others in the fight that would have taken him?
There was a book written called Phoenix Rising. A man named Aaron Mitchell just released it. Did a very nice job. Took him 5 years to do it. He called me, I think, with a year or two remaining to get some of my thoughts, but he had gone through everything, the archives. He'd watched all the tape, did a marvelous job with it. But one of the stories was Tony's recruitment, and he kind of wanted to see who was interested in him, and he kind of hung on, and I got very angry, and I laid a line on him, which was a total fabrication on my part. I said, look, if I can't get an answer by this time, I'm just going to have to fill that, because we had already gotten 4 scholarships filled with guys who assumed they were going to play with him, and he was holding off. But I think he was just playing mind games with me. And I said that, and so he held out longer and pushed me well beyond the date I had given him. And his mother knew he was going to commit, but he just had to play around with the old man a little bit. But he knew we were going to do it. He had seen how hard it was, even at Point, to get going, and then at Green Bay early, and he wanted to see it turn.
And
Trevor, you held up the book, right? You just said,
this is it right here. Yeah, this is it. This is Phoenix Rising. I have the book here literally in front of me. We're actually going to give away 3 copies signed by the author, Aaron Mitchell, as part of this show, Coach. So thanks again for signing a copy for us. I got John's in my hand here that I'm sending to him. And, of course, our producer, Craig Culbertson, is a Clintonville trucker himself. So he really appreciates it.
I noticed that's a thick book. So apparently rebuilding the program is not just a 2-day thing.
Yeah. Well, it touched on when Dave Buss was there, and then those after him, and then me, and then my dearest friend Mike Heidemann, who's passed away, who was my longtime assistant, his year after I left was the best year in Green Bay history, record-wise. And so he took that program right after I left and even made it better. And so it went through particularly that year. I'm amazed at the job Aaron did. He was a fan. His parents were big fans, and he grew up a fan of Phoenix basketball. And I'm amazed at the research he did. He interviewed so many of the players and so on, and he did a wonderful job. And he's not an author. He works for Kohler Corporation, I believe.
Yeah, he's a super fan. And I know that, Dick, your relationship with him means a lot too. Aaron lost his father quite a few years ago and is really, really grateful for the relationship that you built with him. More with Coach Bennett, Green Bay basketball. We'll get to the Wisconsin stuff. And of course, it's March. We'll talk about that too. We're back in a minute. We are Inside Wisconsin with Dick Bennett.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Cobblestone Creek, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Mill Home Supper Club, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Roll Tech, and by Miller Lite.
Helpful critiques, ideas, great stories, people we should know, the great bar in your town, the fish fry you want to know, the fish boil, anything that you want to reach out to us with. We are happy. We are here. You can be the inputters. We're here to listen.
What do you guys do at ESPN? Do you drink Miller Lite on campus there?
Right. I would be nice if I could have a fridge and we bring some of the product in there and that could help us along. No, we're the only place where work productivity goes up during the tournament, or at least stays the same. Everybody else is, right? They're on their computer, they're watching, they're taking days off. They got the blue flu in that case. Yeah, so they get to go to the bar, they get to go to the tavern, they get to pop the top on a Miller Lite and get to enjoy themselves and, well, or have another Miller Lite and weep as their bracket goes to hell.
That's me.
Ours don't, but I'll tell you, can I add how hard it is to cover the first few rounds of the tournament at ESPN when you're doing SportsCenter? Because you have video restrictions. And so in any half hour, you might be able to show 3 minutes. Now you got to get 8 games into 3 minutes. So you might get one play. You might get, So all of a sudden, hey, here's number 1 seed, and they beat 16 by 30. Guess what? Score only. We're not going to see them. It's on the bottom line. So you got to pick and choose. And then invariably there's a buzzer beater. And so that's one of the really hard things is to fit it together. And so now you have to, where most times you get a shot sheet's long enough, you can tell the whole game. Now I have to go back and read when Bucknell is beating Kansas to know all about it. Or even if Wisconsin's winning an early round, because I'm going to get one play. Maybe I'm going to get 15 seconds. So I've got to go, hey, the Badgers had 16 guys in double figures and they led by as many as 15. And here's the most crucial bucket. So you find yourself diving into it way more than you do like at a typical NBA night. So that's just an aside. And by the time you're done with that, you're like, okay, I'm going to go home now and I'll have the Miller Lite, perhaps drinking alone late at night.
Tall boy. Head to your favorite sports bar this March and grab a Miller Lite. Watch your favorite team. Some of my best memories, man, is getting out of work and heading to Anduzzi's or Stadium View here in Green Bay. And the TVs everywhere you can look in the games, and it starts at 11:30 and not much gets done after that. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Inside Wisconsin to find delivery options near you, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. It's Miller time. Celebrate responsibly, Wisconsin. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. We are back inside Wisconsin in between segments with Coach Dick Bennett. We have a top
coach, right?
Wisconsin's
we decided
coach.
We're going to name him Wisconsin's coach.
Yeah, we'll tell him that.
State's coach emeritus.
That's wow.
There you go.
It's about as legendary as they come here in the state in terms of coaches. I'm with you there. Bo Ryan, close second. Al McGuire, he was good too. Coach Dick Bennett, Wisconsin's coach. All right, top 5 list time. I challenged us to come up with our 5 favorite March Madness Wisconsin moments, knowing that it doesn't just have to be Badgers. Yep. Clearly, it could be Marquette, UWGB, UW Milwaukee. They made a Sweet 16 run. So who wants to go first, John, you or me?
You, because that way then we can have, you can do yours and then we'll have the right answers after that. It's like everything.
So all of mine are post 1983. I'll give you that. There's an honorable mention on my list. It's because it's the only March Madness game I've ever been to. It was when Pittsburgh was at the Bradley Center playing against the Badgers. It was a round of 32 game at the Bradley Center in 2004. It was just really cool to see the Badgers play in the tournament. We of course lost that game, but man, it was a sea of red, a fun moment for me. All right, here's my number 5. The buzzer beater, and it wasn't so much the buzzer beater that Zach Showalter did, but it was the belt that he did after he hit that. Of course, we lost that game in overtime against Florida, but a really fun moment in the tournament. Zach Showalter's buzzer beater. Number 4, another buzzer beater, Bronson Koenig, Xavier, 2016. Number 3, Sam Decker, Arizona, hit a buzzer beater, did his best Steph Curry impression too. Shot it and turned around, didn't even watch it.
Yep.
That is a great moment. Number 2, I was in Las Vegas for this, which is not a place I needed to be when a huge victory happened, but it was when we beat Kentucky in the Final Four. They were supposed to be undefeated. They turned out not to be. Until that game. They were
38. No, they were undefeated, actually.
That was a sweet game. 2015, of course, to take us to the national championship. That didn't go so well. My number 1 moment, and I'm not just blowing smoke here because Dick Bennett is our guest today on Inside Wisconsin, but it was like a moment that I'll never forget where I was when Wisconsin beat Purdue to go into the Final Four in 2000. I was 16 years old. My family and I, ironically, were at Bristol Raceway. I was in a camper watching it on a little 8-inch TV screen. This is pre all the iPads and all that stuff. I know that's, that, but that was my favorite March Madness moment, was when we beat Purdue to get into the Final Four in the year 2000. I understand all of mine are Badger related, but that's pretty much because that's been my life.
Okay.
And now tell me what's right. Here we go.
I have no qualms with all those. It is what hits you. You go more for the exciting moment, and some of those as you know, maybe it's the age. I go bigger picture for a lot of how these things are. So mine are a little different, oddly enough. If you want honorable mention, right? I could throw in some of the ones you have. The GB game against Michigan State when they lost, and Steve Smith put up the game-winning shot and turned to the bench and asked them all what they were doing for summer vacation, which is a spring break, which is amazing. And he confirmed that to me. I saw him one night and I said, "Did you really do that to my boys?" He goes, "I did that to your boys hard." When he comes through. So mine are sort of personal in an odd sort of way. So the first one in terms of tournament games is one Wisconsin lost.
Yeah.
In 1994.
Oh, 94.
In the second round, they played Mizzou, that had just won the Big 8 championship, went undefeated in the Big 8, and they beat them 109-96. Finns was on that team and scored up 30-something. He was great. They had Tracy Webster, Rashard Griffith. But that team got beat in the second round by Mizzou, and a fellow by the name of Melvin Booker was the star on that team.
Jeez.
So Melvin's son's pretty good right now. He plays for the Suns. His name's Devin. So that'd be the first. That's number 5. Number 4, this is where I got my comeuppance. Marquette and Mizzou again. Second round.
Homer.
This is Dwayne Wade's squad. Second round. They go to overtime, and Marquette does not miss a shot. They make 3 twos, 3 threes, all 6 free throws. 21 points in the overtime. Didn't miss a shot.
Incredible.
And advance into the Sweet 16. I've had the great pleasure of shooting a commercial with Dwayne Wade, of speaking with him at NBA Finals and stuff. And I never fail to bring it up, and he never fails to let me know again how they didn't miss a shot. You want to talk about hearts? How about you go to overtime and you never miss? Number 3 is an NCAA tournament game, D2. This is a WGB game. So in 78, they go to the national final. They lose to Cheney State.
Yeah.
And now the next year they come back, and they're in the quarterfinals, which means you go to the D2 Final Four. And for some reason, the number 1 team in the country at the time is Puget Sound. But they have to, even though they're number 1, they have to travel, and they have to come to the Brown County Memorial Arena. So my dad goes and stands in line for tickets. And so I wish I had that stub. I've got so many of them. But they come in, and GB creams them. wins by double digits. The place is electric, right? I don't know how many people used to fit in the Brown County Memorial Arena. 4,000 maybe? Seemed like there were 20,000.
That's awesome.
I mean, talk about blowing the roof off the dump. That was an amazing, amazing game. Puget Sound. They go back to the Final Four. They beat Chinese State in the semis, and then they lost to North Alabama in the final. They lost to back-to-back years under Coach Buss. Number 2 is a game you mentioned, 2015, is when they beat undefeated Kentucky.
Yeah.
I won't go into it other than I know you said you were in Vegas. I was in Indy, and I was in Indy, and I was in the arena.
You're nice.
And then my last one is the ultimate one, because it's Wisconsin as a champion, 1977, and that's Marquette and Al McGuire in his very last game down in the Omni, and they beat North Carolina pretty handily in the second half. When I was a kid, I don't know that there was a bigger game in any sport that was as meaningful. The Packers were not great in 1977, right? That glory had gone. Badgers weren't what they were. And so when the Marquette Warriors won in 1977, that is one of the most significant games ever.
And that reminds me of Dick Lanningkugel's story early inside Wisconsin, going from the arena to the lake to the airport.
Now that we're here, let's go back. Let's go to the airport. So
where do we go from here?
Still one of the that awesome. If there's a seminal moment sportingly in my childhood, right? Like that's one of them for sure. Cool. And that like I'll quote the great Mike Strauss, the former sports information director at Oklahoma State University, as you talk about top 5. I'm not sure where that ranks, but it's in my top 1.
Shut up and sit down.
So speaking of dog days of winter, we got to keep the dogs warm, John. And we've teamed up with American Family Insurance again. It's called Boots for Kids. Do you remember how many pairs of boots your kids went through when they were young? I mean, a lot, right?
Yeah. It is. Listen, it's imperative, right? And it's as much as you keep the head covered because you don't want to heat. If your feet get cold, you're just cold. When the
Game
feet
over.
feel right, everything. Yeah, it's just absolutely the worst. And my son, so they're just down in Arkansas. They have the worst storm they've had in 10 years. His boots are obviously up here. Luckily, mom and sister were going to visit with him. And you never saw a kid happier in his life to have his boots back.
Get the boots on the feet.
Right. Because I got great shoes, Dad. But not only are they not warm, they're going to get messy in the snow.
Yeah.
So,
well, and this time of year especially, kids bust through these things, right? They outgrow them and all that stuff. There's all sorts of different, mitts and gloves for kids and hats for kids. With American Family Insurance and Inside Wisconsin, we want to do a boot drive. So Boots for Kids, head to insidewisconsin.com/amfam. Check out a participating agent near you and just pick up an extra set of boots. Take them to the agency or ship them to the agency. Amazon is pretty cool with that these days. But let's just see if we'll drop them off. They'll put them on the front door. Let's just see if we can make sure that any kid in Wisconsin that needs boots here to get through winter has a pair. Go to insidewisconsin.com/amfam. It is Boots for Kids with our friends at American Family Insurance.
Good chance. Show some humanity. This is a spot, right? We're not on any side of anything. We're not divisive. Just help kids be warm.
Yeah. Keep those dogs warm. Maybe they'll hold on for next season. Anyway, get it done. InsideWisconsin.com/amfam. Boots for Kids. Insure carefully. Dream fearlessly with American Family Insurance.
Back on Inside Wisconsin, more with legendary coach, Wisconsin Athletic Hall of Famer, Dick Bennett. We're going to start here, which was maybe where we should have started with the foundation of this, but I want you to give me a chance to take a minute or two. Tell me about the 5 pillars that when you start to rebuild this program, other than we need dudes, give me the standard and those 5 pillars that you hold your guys to.
Well, you have to put up with a bit of spiritual talk, and I'm not going to apologize for it. When I was offered the Green Bay job I had never coached, and I remember there were some letters say, hey, this guy's a high school coach, small college coach. This is a bit beyond him. I remember seeing that sign my first year at Green Bay. We lost. We were 5-23, and I remember a sign that says, go back to high school. And but I had to decide, can I do this, and what kind of blueprint? And I decided there was only one way. My faith has always been the most important thing to me, though you wouldn't know it at times. But at any rate, I said, what needs to be done? And I said, well, study someone you admire. So I didn't study. I read, reviewed what I knew about this Son of God called Jesus. And I saw that what he stood for, what he taught and lived was humility, the way he lived, who he lived with. His passion carried him all the way to the cross. His ability to take 12 pretty ordinary guys and make them better than they were. And his great message of servanthood is so important. And then being thankful in all circumstances. So I tried to recruit guys who knew who they were. I tried to recruit guys who would be passionate. And that's what you need on the defensive end. I thought that if we could bring them together, that synergy factor I spoke about earlier would be a matter. They will come together and be better as a whole than the parts sum up to be. And then I will build a system on servanthood, which at that time meant a lot of screening, a lot of extra passes, a lot of help defensively. And, fortunately, those stood the test of time. But the one thing I fought to the very end is learning. The wisdom comes when you're just down and out. And so in defeat, particularly in bad ones, there's incredible wisdom if you can face it. And you have to be thankful, which was the fifth, to be thankful always. And I must say, because it was hard. We got beat early. I made more mistakes than anybody, and we were criticized, and there was doubt, but slowly. And that's where I learned the difference between enduring and persevering. A lot of coaches endure. You endure to the bitter end, and then they let you go. But those who can persevere, you got to endure, but persevering means you're trying to do something. Mm-hmm. You're trying to improve. And so thankfully that happened. Some of it was not my doing. It was always the right kind of guys who were humble, who played passionate, who did stay together in unity, who did serve one another, and they were able to accept losing and learn from it. And that was the key to the pillars.
Let's talk about Tony for a second. You obviously passed everything that you know on to him, and he couldn't be more grateful. One of my favorite memories so far of watching Tony's career was how he took it on the chin after that loss from UMBC. Yep. The first time a mid-major 16 seed beat a number one seed. Yeah. And he even referenced, hey, I played at a mid-major. I played at Green Bay, and any one of these teams can beat any of us. He talked about 2 fish and 5 loaves. I mean, and clearly all that comes from you, Coach. Yeah. So how are you doing now that Tony, I mean, gosh, you watched him win a national championship. So talk about what that's all meant to you post-coaching him here at Green Bay.
It's meant so much I can't even watch his games. That's probably if I understand better, something I didn't fully understand for many years. Parents look at a game a different way than coaches. And now having coached and knowing I've got that parental pride, that love for my son, but I also see that if you are going to coach, you better be ahead of the play. If you're a fan and a parent fan, you applaud what your son has just done and the kind of great game he had last week. But as a coach, you're always seeing the trouble around the next corner. And so when I watch a game, I see that. The pride in his success or failure never wanes. And I'm glad you pointed that out, because as much as we were all hurting after that UMBC game, I would never have spoken to anybody, much less said what he said. His poise in that regard was amazing.
So Tony's getting all this credit because he's won a national championship. He's in the ACC. If you had to match him X's and O's with his sister, could he beat Kathy, you think, if he were given this?
I don't know. Kathy never gets any credit. She was a great player who didn't get to play her last 2 years. She was first team All-State or junior, led them to a national. our state championship, I should say, at Stevens Point. And was Jody, someone as successful as Jody Conrad, who is no longer with us, was a coach at Texas, told me she was one of the top point guards in America. And she was. She was way ahead of her game. She did things that girls didn't do then. But she never played her senior year in high school. She tore her knee up badly, and she went to college, and she played on one knee. She was an MVP at GB for 1 year, and then the next year she tore her other knee up. So that ended her playing career. So she went into coaching, did well at Oshkosh, won a bunch of titles. Her last 2 years at Oshkosh, she goes 61-1, 30-1 her next to the last year, 31-0 her last year, national championship, Division III. Goes and rebuilds Evansville, gets them into the NCAA tournament, then gets the job at Indiana the same month that Coach Knight ended his career at Indiana. I always say she was the best player in our house, and you just suggested she might be the best coach in our house. I know I'm on the bottom of the totem pole because my brother Jack won 2 national titles at Point, and his son Nick just won the state championship in Wisconsin at Racine St. Catherine. So I'm at the very bottom of the totem pole. I never won a big game, and I have the distinction in going to the Final Four with my last Wisconsin team, but still losing to Michigan State 4 times in that season. How'd you like to carry that around your reputation?
Well,
so that was one of my questions.
Say that your first pillar of humility, you've certainly exercised that, because I feel like there's some big wins in there, and I'm not so sure I'd put you at the bottom of the heap. But if that's where you feel comfortable, I'm not going to. You don't need me to uplift you then.
That was going to be one of my questions, Coach, was do you hate Michigan State as much as we do?
I don't. I love Tom Izzo. I coached when we played at Point when he was playing at Northern Michigan, and I coached against him. And he's a heck of a lot better coach than he was as a player. I'll tell you that. But I love the guy. Our first year in the NCAA, Steve Smith hit a buzzer beater to beat us down in Tucson in the first round. They were just, I've said that Michigan State team that won that title that 2000 year is still one of the best Final Four champions I can remember. I thought Baylor gave them a run last year. I thought they were tremendous, but that was an incredible team. They played like we did, only better. And Tom, as I started to say, I love Tom because what you see is who he is. And I like that. There's no phoniness there.
Well, it was fun to watch. I can tell you that. We will wrap it up with Coach Dick Bennett in just a minute. We are Inside Wisconsin.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Cobblestone Creek, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Mill Home Supper Club, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Rolltech, and by Miller Lite.
Helpful critiques, ideas, great stories, people we should know, the great bar in your town, the fish fry you want to know, the fish boil, anything that you want to reach out to us with. We are happy. We are here. You can be the inputters. We're here to listen.
J.A., out of curiosity, 13 straight hours of March Madness when those things kick off Thursday, Friday. If you had to go to Festival Foods and do the perfect March Madness spread, what is the food that you have to have on there?
See, and I was just going to say over the course of 13 hours, and especially the first couple of days, that first weekend, because they stretch them out, we're just going to need one of everything. I don't know if anybody's ever gone into the Festival Foods and go, hi, I'll need one of everything. But that's pretty much what I would do. Strictly the foods, right? I don't need cat litter. Okay. I might need the Charmin. Some of those things. Might need some paper products.
One of everything humanly edible at Festival Foods. What's the total?
I don't know.
I'm going to find this out, by the way.
Listen, I'm a caveman. I'm going to need some meat. I'm going to need some cheese. I'll need 72 Pepsis. I'll need some beer. That's all. I need some of those kind of
I got it. All right.
Things, right? The staples. I might be Icky Woods. I might get me some cold cuts today. Get me some cold cuts at the deli, and do the little dance. But mostly, I'll just take one of everything.
All right. I got to have wings. That's really all I'm required to have. Buffalo sauce wings.
Right.
All right. Shop at Festival
Foods. Can you imagine,
Foods.
by the way, I bought one of everything and the guy goes, oh, sorry, man, this cream cheese, you got to buy, it's 2 for $1. I just purchased everything in the store, but you're telling me I can't use this coupon because I didn't get 2 cream
One of
cheese?
everything.
Oh my goodness.
We are back inside Wisconsin. Trevor Thomas, John Anderson, and legendary Wisconsin basketball coach in all sorts of levels, Coach Dick Bennett. Thanks again, Coach, for being here with us. All right. I get a few here, then John goes through lightning round, and I'm going to wrap this just so we're all on the same page. I'm going to wrap this with my Hallmark commercial at the end of this one this time around. All right, here we go. I have 2. Number 1, help us relive the 2000 Final Four. It's March. We're all going there, hopefully again someday. Help us relive the 2000 Final Four.
Well, it was just a group of guys that was my first big recruiting class, and they were juniors, augmented by a Division II transfer, John Bryant, who just came together. And, we faced some Hall of Fame coaches, Jerry Tarkanian in the first round, Lute Olson in the second round, a very excellent LSU team who had won the SEC title in the third round, and Gene Cady, who I think the world of, and almost felt as bad for him as I did good about us making it in the Final Four. And I remember after the game, something Pat Richter said to me, he said, geez, he said, you just won 4 bowl games. And I said to Tony, I said, after they won it, I said, you just won 6 bowl games. We get excited when a team wins a football bowl game. I said, you got to win 6 bowl games to win a national title in basketball. And that's true. The thrill, I made a statement that I think the Lord had to plan, because I said, I'm enjoying this and hope that I can't even remember the statement. Tony memorized it. I said, I hope I always have the sense to enjoy and value what truly matters so that I can enjoy something like this that makes for many happy moments. That's an old man's mess of what once was a decent statement.
I have it right in front of me because I know what truly matters. It enables me to enjoy what seems to matter, like this.
Oh, my goodness. So journalists do have a value.
Oh,
well,
thank you. I'm sorry.
That's
I couldn't
awesome.
avoid
No.
that.
It's all right.
We'll take it. All right, here's my last one. We know that it started for you at the college ranks at Stevens Point, and Green Bay with Tony were some special years. It has come full circle now that your grandson is a scholarship athlete and plays basketball for UWGB. Coach, what's it like watching Lucas play at your home turf?
Yeah, I like watching him. I do. He's a very excellent passer. He hasn't had a very good year. He had a very good freshman year last year, and this year he's struggled a bit, but he loves the game. He's as cheerful on the bench, pulling for his teammates as he's just a team guy, and I love that. And he wants to go into coaching, which tells me I thought he was smarter than that, because he's a very excellent student. And so it's a joy. I have no trouble. I get a little nervous, but not anxious. And I know he loves the game. So that's special.
Cool.
Okay. Well, first off, I'm glad you took a poke at the coaches after you took a poke at the media, which is great.
Okay.
I also like hearing that, because you're a typical coach in that once you, like, fans like us, we watch the ball. Coaches seem to watch everybody moving but the ball when they're watching a game. I always find that fascinating.
Yeah.
Because they know where the ball's going to end up where it's supposed to be. But they're watching everybody when they play around here. So,
yeah.
I'm going to bounce through a bunch of these, and this is kind of a quick hitter, so you can just give me your thoughts on some of this. First off, give me your thoughts. The guy I grew up watching at GB, who you probably competed against when you were at Stevens Point, Dave Buss, who they thought was going to be, who coached too much of a slow down style to be a D1 coach, and they had no success till you came back and put games back in the 50s again. But tell me about Dave Buss.
Brilliant, caustic, but able to get done what he wanted done more than anyone I remember. Could have, should have been the Wisconsin coach at one point.
Great player. Where'd you find Terry Porter?
My wife found him. We were at a game. I was watching another guy from Cudahy, and it was the last game of the year. It was a tournament, first round of the tournament. My wife pokes me. She used to go to games with me. She doesn't anymore because she realized she knows more than I do anyhow. But she stopped going after a couple of years. But that year, she said, I don't know who you're watching, but you better start watching number 30 on the other team. And it wasn't like he was a scholarship player. He fouled out, scored 7. But talk about all of those attributes that I value. He had them all. And so we didn't have to recruit against anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We got him up to point. He committed and is probably the best player I've ever coached.
What does SPASH stand for?
Stevens Point Area High School.
Senior high school. Yep.
Senior Stevens Point's. Yeah, that's true.
He's one of my favorites. Do you have any memorabilia from 2019? Did Tony send you a piece of the net? You got anything from there?
Yeah, he sent me actually I got he sent me a championship ring, which really, I might, who knows, after I'm gone, they might think it's my ring and I want it. But no, it's the players designed that, and that's really something.
A couple of more real quick. Rippin, you're the same age basically as Harrison Ford. Do you know Harrison Ford?
My roommate knew him. He was there when I was there, yes, but I did not know him.
Okay. Give me one game that you'd either like to recoach or relive, just that sticks out.
Michigan State in the first round of the tournament. We have a 6-point lead with about 3 minutes to go in the game down in Tucson. Brains decides we're going to slow them down. We go to 1-3-1, which I rarely played, but we had used different times. They hit 2 threes within a minute to tie the game. And we played, then we had to go back man to man. And Tony has said, Dad, why? Ever since that, why? And he doesn't have to finish it. That was my fault completely.
Listen, Al McGuire says the same thing. They were beaten by North Carolina, and they went to the Four Corners, dried their sweat, and it allowed them to come back. So sometimes you play what you want to play. Yeah. And the final one I have here is I need you to put the Bennett coaching family. I want them in order of most wins in college. Who has the most? Kathy, Tony, or Dick? Most wins.
Tony.
Kathy. Who is second? Oh, actually, no. You're first. You're first at 489. Most coaching wins.
Yeah. Well, it took me a long time to do it because I also had the most losses by far.
And then second is Kathy or Tony?
In terms of wins. Boy, I would say Kathy.
Kathy is second, and then Tony's third. Now he's got the title, but she's got some too. But just so you know, he's got work to do. You're at 489, she's at 353, and Tony's at 310 and counting.
Yeah.
As he comes through.
Yeah.
Fascinating. All right, I've got one more here to wrap this up.
Trevor?
I've got one more. Yeah. So, Coach, you're an inspirational guy. You shared a lot about your faith. I've heard you talk in numerous settings, and you leave feeling like you learned something, right? And I can't help but reminisce a little bit in talking with you about my high school playing days. And I promised my high school coach at some point I would be able to give him credit for the man he was off the court instead of the coach he was on the court. And I'll share the story, and then I'm curious to know your take in your years in the high school years. But my high school coach actually picked me up for school on Thursday mornings every single week because my parents split and I couldn't get to the high school that I was going to because I was at my dad's the night before. My high school coach was losing his wife from cancer at that moment and actually spent the time to pick me up and bring me to school every Thursday. That's what I remember most from my high school coach. I'm curious, what's some of the feedback that you got from your players in their most influential time in their life?
Probably some of the things that we went through together. I've learned a lot from a young man who's serving time in prison, whom we took into our home after he was arrested so that he could get his education finished. And then he made a very bad mistake in his serving time. And it's always connected with him and with others, as it is with you, in some of the kindnesses that are shown to people during difficult times. the good times we just celebrate and we enjoy, and they're part of the memory. But it's the small kindnesses that seem to hit the spot at the right time that are remembered. And when I see a coach or a player or a father or a mother who's having a very hard time in the throes of depression or just misfortune or whatever, reach out, and you would never know what they're going through. To be kind to someone, that is one of the most blessed events that I can recall, that I can remember. I wish I had been better at that. My wife is very much that way, and I wanted our kids to do it. And it sounds like you had a very rare and special coach.
Yeah, sure did. Well, you are a very rare and special coach yourself, and we could not be more grateful that you joined us here on Inside Wisconsin. We love telling your story, Coach.
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed it even more than you did, just being remembered. Thank you.
We appreciate it. You're terrific, and I think great advice on the way out. Grace and kindness. It's a good time for it now, good time for it always. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Shut up and sit down.
John, I bet that's fun for you because you were a GB guy, right? You are a GB guy, and you were a big GB fan growing up.
Big GB guy, and then I'm just I'm kind of an old coach's guy, and I always think I'm an old soul, and I think, no, actually, I think you're just old. But you talked about your coach, and I hear him talk about those kids, and literally just the other day, I emailed my track coach from college, Coach Teal, who is 97 years old.
Wow.
And I just have respect for those guys. I love to listen to those stories. I feel like I'm kind of on a cusp. I know who all the current players and LeBron's guys are, but the guys I grew up on when you're 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 that you don't get to meet. So I love to hear stories about those guys, love to hear people. So I'm a coach guy like that. And so I find him fascinating. And then, some of the messaging is you can see why a guy's like that successful, right? Like you're the same guy. If the standards every day, and it's built on hard work and compassion and kindness, most of the time he comes out on top. I guess maybe there's some coaches that practice that and aren't great, but you just hope that somewhere that's good enough and it's appreciated.
Our parents make us, our coaches mold us. And that couldn't be more true with Coach Dick Bennett and your coach, and obviously my coach, Tim Wagner, as well. You had a little interaction with Coach Bennett in your younger years. He was at a sports banquet of yours. Is this true?
He was the speaker at my senior high school athletic banquet. He came out, and he was at the Rock Garden Supper Club. I believe that's where everything was done. I don't even know if it's still called that. Back in the day. I think. Yeah. Is it? Yeah. Well, that's where you hold every athletic banquet if you're at least on the west side.
I was going to say the east side is probably the Riverside Ballroom back in the day, but I digress. Go ahead.
Anyway, but yeah, he spoke at my high school senior athletic banquet, and he was memorable, which is crazy because you see so many of those things that here's a guy that says, if you work hard and you lift weights and you eat right and you listen to your coaches, you'll be successful, rah, rah. And his was different than that. He stood up there and he put on a red ball cap and kind of turned it ajar. And he recited Casey at the bat with just great energy and great drama. And it was, like I said, it was really a memorable night.
So the banquet thing, you and I talked about how you were going to maybe recite this Casey at the bat thing.
I did. And I thought about this, and then I think, this thing's long enough. Like Dick Bennett is in addition to all his coaching, he's making time to go to high school banquets because you never know what kid might be there that might be 6'8". But just, it was really a memorable moment that you'd always get from those things. And I'm looking at Casey at the bat and I'm thinking, I should recite this. It would be great. And then I think I wouldn't do it as well as Dick Bennett. So now I'm not only a knockoff, I'm a bad knockoff. And then it's kind of long. So I'm like, okay. And since everybody knows it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right, this is I don't know. I don't know that I've ever heard Casey at the bat. When I really tried hard to play this off earlier, and I was with Dick Bennett, and you're like, "Oh, he recited Casey at the bat," and I told him, and I was like, "Oh yeah, what a great." I don't know what you guys are talking about. I've never heard it.
The outlook wasn't great for the Mudville 9 that day. It wasn't brilliant for the. You don't know that.
I've never. I can't. Most of the things you tell me that I should know, I'm like, oh, I know that.
Flynn let drive a single to the wonderment of all, and in the end, mighty Casey struck out. Casey at the bat. You don't know that.
I have literally nothing. Are you done? You're done. That's how we're gonna end this episode. Of all the things that I've gotten wrong, that's the one that made him walk away. Didn't see that coming. All right. Till next time, as you are, Wisconsin.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Cobblestone Creek, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Mill Home Supper Club, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Roll Tech, and by Miller Lite.
Shut up and sit down.